I need you to ask yourself why I read this book 3 times in the last 3 months. And the answer is pretty simple. The first time I read it, it was because I was intrigued. I mean, I met this guy back in 2018. I know how smart he is, but what really does he have to offer? But the issue is that I couldn't put it down, you know? Then the second time I read it now for comprehension and understanding. I wanted to absorb the knowledge that he had to offer and take it in for what it was. Then the third time, it was for this book review, the very first big review that we get to do on this channel. It starts with you, network with me, Les. But before we dive into it, the big question we need to answer is, who the hell is Witness Mdaka? So let's dive right straight into it. I first met Witness Mdaka back in 2018. This was after Emmanuel Sobonoko actually connected us, you know. I had just founded an environmental health company called EnviroSwitch at the time. And since some of our target market were people in the property space, Emmanuel Sobonoko basically said Witness would be the person to speak to in relation to servicing this particular sector. So without hesitation, and I mean as quickly as I possibly could, I took the phone, I called Witness up. Luckily for me, it was convenient for him and he said we could meet at the end of the week. So the day of the meeting actually came. He obliged clearly. He wasn't hungry, so he said that all I needed to do was pay for the drinks, which is a lesson for another day, the day you have a meeting that you actually requested, right? And so the meeting progressed well. He simply asked one thing of me. He asked me to send him an email containing our company profile and basically a narration of what we do, like a short synopsis of what we do, right? And then the second thing that he asked me to do, he actually told me that at their church, they're having this youth motivational conference that is based on business, and they wanted to plant the seed of entrepreneurship within young people. And he asked me if I could oblige to actually be one of the presenters on the day. And of course, I did gladly oblige to that. To my pleasant surprise, the Monday after which we had already had our meeting, Witness had already sent out emails to his property peers and mentors. He introduced us fully, and in the process he shared our profile, you know. And then he came back to me and said, now I've done what I can do. The follow-ups are up to you, my brother, which I was happy to hear. The majority of them responded almost immediately, which made me wonder once more, who the hell is this guy, man? But you know, they responded positively, and special mention or shout out goes out to Ronan is specifically because when I had a meeting with him, he actually took this photo of me, the photo that I love so much. I didn't see, hear from, or meet Witness again for at least 2 to 3 years. And this is up until I saw a WhatsApp status of his where he actually said that he was writing a book and it's almost ready, right? So I reached out immediately and asked him for details, as I wanted to be the first of many to purchase this particular book from him. And then he responded by saying that it's not yet ready, my brother, but I will let you know when it is time to purchase it. So I left it at that, right? Then a few weeks pass. I get a friendship recommendation. You know, when Facebook says this is someone that you may actually know, that's what happened. So I send the invite, he accepts, I go through his profile, then I'm like, 40,000 people following Witness. What the hell has changed in the last 2-3 years? So I dig deeper, I go through his profile, and to my pleasant surprise, I actually see why that is the case. I mean, the messages that he shares are simple, basic, but quite profound at the same time. About a month later, I get a call from his team. They tell me that the book is finally available. I acknowledge them, and then I tell them that I will make contact directly with Witness. I do that literally after the call, and I tell him I'm gonna purchase 6 copies of your book, right? 5 of which we're gonna donate through a partnership with the EnviroSwitch Foundation, which is an NPO that I founded, to 5 deserving young people, to which he gladly agrees. Then I add a second proviso. I tell him, you're gonna have to come to my place and deliver the books yourself, in person. No couriers here, in person. I haven't seen you in quite a while and we need to catch up, to which he agrees. Then finally, there is some space in his schedule, so he pulls through comes to deliver the books, we catch up a bit and I get to hear the history as to how he moved from 400 people on his Facebook profile to over 40,000 people. He narrates the story for me. He tells me the value that he was providing to people through that platform of Facebook. Then he also tells me that his entrepreneurial mind said that it's better to write the book at the right time, deliver it when people need it most, and there's no better time than COVID at this point in time. So I'm happy with the feedback that he's actually giving me. So at this point, we then move on to take a picture and then craft how we're gonna actually make them compete so that we know that they deserve to get copies, and then that in itself proceeds and then the young people actually win the copies of the book. So I remain with my copy of the book. I put it amongst the stack of books that I still need to read, and I schedule it for like 5 months or 7 months later or so. Then 7 months later actually comes, and then I start reading. That's when I actually wish I had read it the day he delivered it. So I say all that to say this. Witness Mdaka is the founder and CEO of Quality Growth International, which is a property investment, development and management company. He is further a property investor, a visionary leader, a businessman in his own right, and also now a best-selling author. But the question is it worth your money? Let's find out. In terms of the structure and the layout of the book, simplicity is key, and that's the approach that I'm actually picking up in this book. Witness basically opted for 59 short chapters, therefore giving the reader an opportunity to pace themselves. In other words, you can actually finish this book all at once, all 249 pages over a weekend, or simply read 2 chapters a day over the course of a month, which, if you ask me, is nearly impossible, given that I had actually ran through it in 2 days and actually came back to it then like a week or 2 later, so as to read it on a more slow paced. That's how much value that I personally picked up, So I think he actually considered factors such as people's short attention span and or the ability to retain huge chunks of information in one go. So I've also noted that from a structural perspective, there were very minimal grammatical errors. So the editor did do a good job, because there's nothing worse than reading a book with plenty of grammatical errors. Sometimes you don't necessarily get exactly what the author was trying to tell you. But I must say he's sort of a wordsmith, So it was easy and the grammar just flowed. So you can tell also that in his approach, it was very formulaic. There was a formula. He wrote this book in like 3-4 months, but there was a formula because it was all based on previous experience, life experience, his experience, mentorship experience. A ton of experience was surrounding his writing in this book. His formula is quite simple. Witness, I think, has an understanding of money and financial matters, but from what I read, he also has a knack for human psychology. I say this because, being quite the wordsmith that he is, he starts with mindset and then he reiterates mindset every few chapters. So he might touch on other topics, business, he might touch on property, he might touch on shares, but he always goes back to mindset because he understands that from a human psychology perspective, mindset is one of the key things. An example can be seen on pages 160 to 163, where he talks about starting. Hashtag it starts with you, by the way, and how his job is to actually provoke the reader's thinking. That's the job that he gave upon himself. He further shares personal stories about his upbringing and his background, his journey, his wealth, his interest, and his love for his family, but also his love for giving back. That's why you hear him reiterating that through his gifts that God has bestowed upon him, he is giving back, he's providing value to the reader. I particularly like his no-holds-bar approach in speaking his mind, as he doesn't just give you the problem, but possible solutions that you can apply to solve those problems, specific to whatever unique situation you may have at that point in time. There are a few pages of interest that I'd actually like to comment on that made me see another side to the author in this regard. So basically, Witness does not shy away from his spirituality and his religious belief system. He says blatantly in the book that he is a Christian, and he also narrates to say that there's certain principles within the Bible that you can't actually divorce from life or the life of wealth. If you look at pages 179, 191, 198, 221, and others, you will hear him occasionally quoting a verse or two in relation to whatever topic he's discussing at that point in time. His key is to provoke your thinking with intent, by making you aware that even though money is important, there are things that are worth significantly more. And for more details on this, you'll need to go through pages 149 to pages 155, right? His titles or his headings for the book are quite catchy, and he makes you wonder where he is going with that particular topic that he'll actually mention. I'll give you two examples. Nice guys finish first. We usually hear of nice guys finishing last. He gives you a different perspective of nice guys finishing first, and that's the heading. So you actually, based on what you've heard previously, then he actually helps you see things from a different perspective and actually see things from nice guys finish first. And he then urges you to become a nice guy. He also gives commentary on why he hates free social housing with the title, Why I Hate Free Social Housing. So tell me if you won't dig into such a chapter that specifically speaks to why someone would hate free social housing when there are so many poor people out there. You'd have to read it to understand his point of view. He is financially astute and shows a high level of financial literacy. So he covers topics such as balance sheets, that speaks to now assets, liabilities, income, and expenses. He dabbles on cash flow. He teaches the basics of budgeting. He speaks of challenges and hurdles by discussing economic winters. And he also looks at business, property, and shares. Then finally, another thing that I'd like to comment on is page 227, where he says that the problem is with you, black person, in that you don't want to start small. You want all that is nice, but you don't want to pay the price. That actually rhymes even. You want all that is nice, but you don't want to pay the price. What stood out for me is the fact that Witness is unashamed to share how much he loves his wife. And in the process, he discusses topics related to financial management within a marriage, as well as his advice to his two children. As men, we need to be this open about family matters. We need to be this open about relationship matters, especially as it pertains to marriage. Furthermore, he touches on marriage contracts and why it is important, according to him, for you to marry out of community of property, depending on what your marriage vision is and the value system that you are building within your marriage. Another thing that stood out is how much he touches on mentorship. Entrepreneurs, young people, even older people, because you are never too young to learn and you're never too old to teach. No, you're never too old to learn and you're never too young to teach. So that applies for young people, mentorship, old people, mentorship, school-going people, mentorship, people within marriage, mentorship, finances, mentorship, business, mentorship. Everything goes back to mentorship, and he actually emphasizes that a lot, and therefore that's why it stood out for me. I am sorry to disappoint you, but in my endeavor to lead you as my audience, I want you not only to make informed decisions, but personal decisions that are not only influenced by what I actually review on this page. So for that specific reason, I will not be rating any books that I have read on this particular page, because there'll always be a sense of personal preference as well as some level of biasness that exists. Instead, I urge you to go to Witness Mdaka's Facebook page, where you get to actually see the feedback, the interactions, the engagements with people that have read the book, as well as people that are following him and actually are looking to actually read the book so that they get whatever value that the book has to offer. On my side, it's an obvious, it is worth your money. In conclusion, I'd like to simply say South Africa and Africa, the continent as a whole, needs young leaders. Young leaders that will put us on the map and put us at the forefront of actually making a difference moving forward. One reader at a time, one follower at a time. Let us put our resources together, let us pull them together and support our own as we see Africa rise and as we see individuals and young people rise. So Witness Mdaka to me is one such individual, one whose words are actually potent and pierce hard, but in real effect will have an impact if you apply it in your own life. If you apply it in your own life, then most definitely there will be an impact. Thank you for sticking around until the end of the video. I hope I've provided some value for you. And I hope that you'll go out there and actually buy the book so that you can discern whether the value actually sits there and whether it is really worth your money. If I did provide value for you, then please like the video. It really helps the channel. And if you would like similar content, then you can, of course, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a video, and then share as much as you can so that more people will be exposed to the value that this channel actually seeks to add in people's lives. But further than that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, and remember, it starts with you.